And I will state again that I believe Bernay's text is highly influential, but I will offer some critique. And it's just on the basis of when you read it, I know for the back of my mind, I was like, is this persuasion or manipulation? So it's crystallizing public opinion, more on the side of persuasion or manipulation. And again, in our Perloff text, it talked a lot about how influence is on that spectrum between persuasion and coercion, and sometimes some influence may be tiptoeing that line very finely. And so I believe in Bernay's text, there can be some times where you might read it. I know I did, and I kind of felt like, is this an abuse of persuasion as a symbolic process? So using manipulation to kind of influence others due to its symbolic implications. And so that was one thought that kind of circulated in my mind while reading it. So just, abusing that power to influence at times. And this can definitely be seen through his mention of being a proud propagandist, and also mentioning how other people who were against propaganda kind of saw the benefits of it. So it praises propaganda a little bit, which generally has a negative connotation. One point that I pulled from the book, this comes from page 210, where Bernay says the fundamental psychological factors which make the adherence to one point of view impute degraded or immoral motives to believers in other points of views. And he was talking about someone who was anti-propaganda but saw the benefits of it in a sense. And so, again, there is a bit of praise for propaganda where, if you're looking at it at the scope of persuasion being something that is good and beneficial, in this case, he's saying propaganda is beneficial. You are able to influence, but is it necessarily good or moral? So those are some of the concepts in the Crystallizing Public Opinion book. I kind of went around in my head, where yes, you can influence. However, is this, persuasion that has more of generally a positive or good connotation in influencing others, or is this purely manipulation, which is ultimately not moral, not good? So that in the text and praising propaganda, which has a long history of, getting others to do something that may not be necessarily rooted in moral standards. So that is something I would say I saw a lot of while reading the Bernay's text. And a rhetorical strategy that I noticed throughout this text was pathos, and a theory would be elaboration likelihood. So pathos is an emotional appeal, is directed to sway an audience member's emotions and uses the manipulation of the recipient's emotions rather than valid logic to win an argument. An emotional appeal uses emotions as the basis of an argument's position without factual evidence that logically supports the major ideas endorsed by the presenter. So in the emotional appeals he provided in his text, they use persuasive language, and it used it to develop a foundation that's appealing to emotion-based arguments instead of facts. So the validity of the premises that establish such an argument does not really prove to be verifiable. An instance where this can be found in the text is on page 107. It's talking about the group and the herd behavior, where he says, the fact remains that it is just as likely that we voted the Republican ticket because we did so the year before, or because the Republican platform contains a declaration of principle, no matter how vague, which awakens profound emotional response in us, or because our neighbor, whom we do not like, happens to be a Democrat.